The Play's the Thing, with your host, Judy Sleed. Special guest, Bill Gardiner. Underwritten by Taylor Michelle Cullen and NQ.com and Ingrid Lemmy of Hampton's PR. And now here's Judy.
Thank you, Lee. I'm very happy to have Bill Gardiner with me, a distinguished gentleman who I heard a lot about, but I really don't know anything. So welcome.
Thank you, Judy.
And let us know about you first. Where you from?
Well, I'm from here in East Hampton.
Yes, you're a native.
Yes, native.
Famous name.
Yes, the whole family's been here from East Hampton for many years. I live over in East Hampton in the village. I actually live on the property where Lion Gardiner lived, and it's been passed down all these generations to myself. I'm the 14th recipient of the piece of property.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So grew up here, went to school here, then was sent off to a private school so I could prepare for college. Went to college, went to military, was drafted during the Vietnam build-up like most everyone my age. We all got our little notice in the mail sooner or later. You either were 4F and you avoided the draft, or you got the notice. And they got very stingy with the 4Fs. I think by the time my turn came up, they were drafting everything in sight.
Oh, that must have been scary, wasn't it?
Well,
you don't like the fighting type.
Well, actually, yeah, when you first get the notice, the thought that you're going to have to leave your world and you're now going to a new world that you had really no desire to be in. Yes, that part was especially scary. I think at that age that most of us still weren't afraid for our life or anything like that, even though actually it was a serious matter. There were several boys lost over there. I was sent to Fort Ord for basic training, then I went down to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, where I went to Officers Candidate School. I graduated from Officers Candidate School, and you had cube mates there, and both my cube mates didn't come back. They were, and that was kind of the score. So yeah, when you get down to it, the statistics were terrible, but at that time I don't think the young guys really thought in terms of themselves being hit. Somehow you thought you were going to miss it. But
well, I'm so glad you came back, along with a lot of other people who you are in politics.
Yes, I've been involved in politics recently. I ran for office in this year and came close, but not close enough. And close counts in horseshoes, but it doesn't count in politics. And so, no, I didn't make it onto the town board, but yes, I made a bid for the town board this year. And it was, of course, if you're making a bid for the seat, you end up being involved in politics. You end up working with the whole committee. Was a Republican candidate, was working with the Republican committee. Like many people who grew up here, old-timers are Republican. At one time, this was strictly a Republican town. It was controlled by the Republicans.
Right?
Yeah, very heavily by the Republicans. And of course, over the years, there's been a shift. And now the Democratic Party outnumbers us quite heavily. At the last count, I think it's about 1,800 voters, registered voters. And with a total registration of about 16,000 voters, 1,800 voters is quite a bit.
Well, that's, you know, I'm really, I don't know anything about politics. It was never my thing. But I'm a Democrat. It's because I was told to be a Democrat. But I mean, I vote mostly Democrat, and then here and there, whatever I think who has the right, you know, way of doing things.
It's a small town, and I think many people here vote for the person as much as vote for the party. There's a concept known as the line vote, and it turns out statistics have shown us that there's a certain number in each party will vote the line. and that doesn't seem to vary a whole lot from election to election. But you can see from the number of registered voters in one particular party to the number of votes cast that there's definitely a lot of independent thinking on both sides, both the Democrats and Republicans, and of course we have the other parties, the Conservative Party and the Independence Party, the two other major parties in town.
Those parties just throw off the majority. Those little parties, right?
Yeah.
They just throw off the votes for the Democrats and the Republicans.
To a certain extent, the Conservative Party has been heavily aligned with Republicans. In fact, most of the source, of the original source of the Conservative Party was Republican. The Independence Party is more in the middle. And you'll see with their endorsements, they're going one, they might endorse on this side and on that side. In particular, people who, or candidates, I should say, who have shown that they're lined up with what the Independence Party holds to be important, are the ones that they will tend to endorse. But they tend to be both left and right.
So what did you do before this, before you decided to run for this office?
Oh, after graduating, after getting out of the military, I was drafted actually out of college. And I went and finished college. I worked as an aeronautical engineer for several years. And then I went to law school. Most of the people in engineering end up going on to a higher education of one type or another. Most of them go to get their PhD and become what's known as chief of section. In whatever department they work, they will migrate towards the head with the extra degree and with the experience. A lesser group will go into business. And essentially they'll end up in the business end of the engineering firm. They might even marry the boss's daughter and move all the way to the very front. Who knows? And then a very small group will go on to law, and they become patent attorneys. And that's what I did, yes. To be a patent attorney, first you have to be an attorney. And then you have to go sit for a whole other bar, the patent bar. And it's put on by the Patent and Trademark Office down in Washington, D.C. They conduct or design the exam. And if you pass that exam, then you're a patent attorney. Now, besides being an attorney, you also have to have a graduate degree from a qualified engineering college. So it's a very small little group, a very little narrow niche. It's not the most exciting work, but it does pay very well.
It pays very well.
It pays very well, and so there is a certain group that migrates towards it because there's money on the table, and after all, money still does make the world go round.
Sure does.
And then I retired back to my hometown here in East Hampton, and retired back to the old family house right there on James Lane in the village of East Hampton. It's
Did you say that you retired?
Yes, I retired from the practice of law. I'm still an attorney. I'm still registered with the state bar and with the federal bar and the patent bar, but no, I'm not practicing anymore. I have a small farm that we run in East Hampton.
You're a farmer too.
Yes, we we have a small farm behind the house there that's been there, well, since the 1600s. And we have a piece of property out on 114, Route 114. It's about 21 acres there that we own and farm. We lease another 20-acre parcel up on Cove Hollow Farm Road. And then we're leasing a small piece down on Further Lane and over on Cedar Street. Excuse me. But we do primarily vegetables, and most of it's certified organic vegetables that we sell to local market, and that's what we've been doing for about the last 8 years.
Oh, that's marvelous. I mean, you were a lawyer and a farmer. That's two different things.
Yeah.
And you are so good looking, so you took advantage of that. And did you do any thing in show business or modeling?
No, not me. No,
not at all?
Never came near that. Probably the other end of the spectrum. Certainly patent law and engineering work was not very glamorous, not very exciting work. A lot of times on a drawing board, a lot of times in front of a massive computer. Engineering work, a lot of it's done with wind tunnel tests, collecting data, and going back and processing the data. The law practice, excuse me, law practice. At first, I had a general practice with a partner. which most everyone does when you first get out of law school. You either work for a larger firm or you hang out your own shingle. A good close friend of mine and I, we hang out our own shingle. And after hanging out our own shingle, you know, we worked at Heinz 57, whatever walked in the door. He went on to specialize in criminal law, and I eventually went on to get into patent law. But first you need to join the federal court, the federal bar, which, you know, takes a certain amount of time in doing, though it's pretty straightforward. And you also want some court time. And when you first walk out of law school, you don't really want to walk into federal court on a very high-profile case that involves a lot of money. So you're much better off doing the smaller DUIs, contracts, incorporation efforts, and all that sort of thing. And we both did that for about 2 years before we went and started to specialize. And he still practices out in California at this time. He went on to do nothing but criminal law, and I went my way into the patent and enjoyed it quite a bit. It was a great experience. It was a great education. And it's very interesting once you get into it. It turns out to be nothing but a large application of common sense when you get right down to it.
Did you do any cases that I would have heard about?
I don't think so. We did do some cases that had a certain amount of profile. We did one against one of the major cities out in California, Huntington Beach. That had locally had a profile, but I doubt it would have made the news back here. There were some police officers. They'd beaten up an individual and charged him with several offenses.
It's not a patent
No,
case.
no. But I ended up doing this one, and it did hit the papers out there. Because we won, we prevailed over the town and over the police officers.
I was curious about if you did any patent case that was
I don't think anything you would have heard of. Most of the work you do actually as a patent attorney, you very seldom go into court. It nearly always settles before you walk in. Most of it is for the client, and the client is producing paperwork literally on a daily basis. The client has two concerns. One, should he patent something? And then if he doesn't patent it, he needs to protect himself from somebody else patenting it. And so one of the firms I worked for was Strom Engineering, and you know, quite a bit would come out. They were a contract engineering firm. A contract engineering firm, essentially what they do is they would do engineering work for a company that doesn't specialize in engineering. For instance, say McDonald's wanted, and we never did McDonald's, but say McDonald's, just for example, wanted a way to process hamburgers. So they need a new way to move the hamburgers from A to B, or a new way to cook them. They don't have a staff of engineers. So they would hire a contract engineering firm, and the contract engineering firm would design the machine, build one working model for them, and hand over a patent to them, a valid patent to them. So they were protected to, you know, they vested their money in this machine, and now it's theirs, lock, stock, and barrel. It can't be stepped on by somebody else. And so what you would get from your client as a patent engineer, patent attorney, is you would get this paperwork, and you would look at it, and you'd go back and consult with him and say, look, I probably get you a patent here for this. This looks very questionable, so you would publish that part. Or the client might say, I don't really need to protect that, to heck with it, even if you can get a patent. So you publish it, and when you publish it, in this country, as long as something is put into a periodical or a book of any kind, the second it goes into a periodical, it becomes public knowledge. So another company can't come along and patent it. So that became a very important part of it. The other thing is patents take maintenance. They have a maximum life of 17 years. But on a 3-year rotation basis, you need to update the patent with the Patent and Trademark Office, so it is protected, so that your client is now not manufacturing this thing and all of a sudden finding out someone else can start to build it. It's, you know, it's a tricky area of law because you have two competing interests. On the one side, you want to reward somebody who comes up with a better idea that makes society a better place to live. You know, obviously, if there was somebody came up with a new way to treat cancer patients that could save them, they've really done society a wonderful favor, you know, and so you need to reward them. But on the other hand, every time you hand one of these things out, you create a monopoly. And society now has to pay for that monopoly. Every time they use that particular device, they have to pay a premium to the patent holder. So you're putting this burden on society. So you have these two competing interests, the burden on society of handing out the patent versus the reward necessary to promote these ideas. You know, because obviously without some sort of monetary reward, who's going to risk their time and their effort and their own money to develop something?
That's true.
So it's a constant tug. Yeah, it's a constant tug of war, and so you have attorneys.
So what you basically did, you just made a pattern, a legal pattern, a patent.
Patent, yes.
To because you could also just send something to Washington, to the patent office, and that would legally bind you, wouldn't it?
Yes, everything is done in patents in Washington, D.C. You can cases are held in federal court outside D.C., though most judges don't like to. They rather see it, if it's a patent case, they rather see it go back to D.C. But the actual patenting itself all takes place in Washington, D.C. and no place else. Years ago, the states did that. You could patent in various states. You could have a patent in New York that wasn't valid in Connecticut. But those days are gone. It's all controlled by the feds in Washington, D.C. You have agents, patent agents, and you apply to the patent agent. And it's a long, prehistoric type of paperwork. You have claims, and various claims you put in there, and you try and get as many claims for your client approved as possible. And it's this archaic way of writing claims. It's one sentence. You may write a 20-page sentence, but it has to be in one sentence. Obviously, you use a lot of colons and a lot of numbers. But that's the way it's done, the way it was done way back in George Washington's time.
Well, I did it a little later than George Washington.
Okay.
But when if I didn't update it like 3 years, then I have lost the rights for that?
Yes. The total length you can get with the extent, because essentially what they are is extensions, and the total you can get is up to 17 years.
Oh, 17 years.
17 with maintenance if you keep renewing.
Oh no! So you don't renew it, then you lost it.
Then you've lost it.
So how come I'm still saving that number?
Yeah, but yeah, so that's how it works. It was enjoyable work for me. Probably the most exciting thing I got to do in my life was in between that. Right after getting out of the military, I got an opportunity to race cars. And that took me to California, and I spent quite a bit of time in California afterwards. But that's how I ended up in California after getting out of the military. And it was exciting. It was a childhood dream come true, and I got to do it for 6 years, and it was really quite a thrill.
Was it a hobby, or you got paid for it?
Early on, it was on a quasi-hobby basis. I had sponsorship from a restaurant chain out there and from one of the tire companies, and they paid for the vehicle and they paid for the cost of the event, but I did not get directly paid. And then after about halfway through my 4th year, I got actual full sponsorship when I got paid to go to the event. That was a big deal.
Did you win?
We won and we lost. We did well and we did poor. It was, you know, racing is very up and down. You have your good years and your bad years. We had years where we had 3 or 4 major crashes, and other years where we go places. A couple of times, yes. I got burned very badly in a race down in Las Vegas once, and my nickname for a long time was Crispy Bill.
Oh my gosh.
And
that's terrible.
we had a little place we all hung out in Los Angeles on Friday nights, and one of the crew that used to come down with us was a young couple who used to come with us, and the fellow was a guitar. He was very good at the guitar.
And he made up a song?
And he made a little song, yes, called Crispy Bill. And yeah, but
so I bet you didn't appreciate it at the time.
Oh, it really didn't matter. Yeah.
I guess after the pain was gone.
Yeah, it happens pretty fast, and the pain goes away pretty quickly. I was amazed, yeah, considering how badly I was burned. You know, it goes away pretty quickly. In a day or two, the pain is pretty much over in a day or two, but you have all the you know, the residue you have to live with, which you know, we won't get into.
No.
But yeah, that was probably that was the childhood dream that came true for me.
Well, getting back to politics, I wonder why would you go into politics? You wanted to change some things, you believed and something was happening and you didn't like and you want to change it?
Yes, you know, having grown up here and seeing the real estate come and real estate go and watch farms disappear, watch one house after another get built, I think that was probably, land use was probably the most motivating factor I had in getting involved in politics. And the more I talked to different people, and then I was, you know, suggested that I come screen for the party, and I did, and then I was told I was chosen. Then I really got motivated. But probably land use was the thing that really kind of started hitting home when I thought about it. You know, when I was running around here as a small boy, you know, farming wasn't something of the past. Farming was real. It was here, it was everywhere. You know, we had in the village alone, I think, 4 or 5 major farms. Just going from where I live there on James Lane to the stoplight, you went by 4 or 5 major farms. That pond view, that I think the Bistrian family were instrumental in developing that years ago. I remember that whole big farm was turned into houses and just watching it disappear. You know, right next door to where I live, the Strauss family lives there now. That was a farm going straight down to the water. Where I live, of course, was a farm. And we still farm part of that. You go up Lily Pond Lane, and of course now it's all lovely giant mansions, but there were many farms up there. Many, many farms.
So would you rather see the farms than the houses?
I would like to see the farming not disappear, and I certainly would like to see some, if you had a magic wand and could make it reappear. Yes, I would love to see it. It's beautiful watching it come up every year and go away. And it goes so hand in hand with the seasons, you know, it dovetails with the seasons so nicely. And yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I liked seeing it. It just seemed so natural. The spring and all the sod was being turned over, and then it was planted, and then it was turning green, then the harvest. It seemed East Hampton. And of course, you know, the land use still is a very big issue down here. You know, we've had a lot of help from the state. We've had the state come in and establish the Community Preservation Fund and the purchases, and everything went along with it. And you know, it's a big block of money, a big tug of war, a lot of politics involved.
Are you going to run for office again?
I don't know. It's I think 07 is quite a ways off. I certainly wouldn't say no. I definitely wouldn't say no.
Maybe now you're going to be endorsed. People will pull you in.
You never know what is coming around the corner. The Republican Party, of course, you know, has a lot of work to do right now.
Well, are you a staunch Republican?
I don't know if you say staunch Republican is correct, because as when I grew up, everyone here was Republican. Here in East Hampton, it's almost a microcosm. East Hampton doesn't seem to match the national Republicans and the national Democrats. In fact, many people will tell you they're actually reversed. They'll say the position that most Republicans take here in East Hampton is what the Democrats take on a national level.
Well, the reason I asked that, because would you run on a different ticket?
You know, I don't think I could do that. I think I would feel, you know, I was a traitor.
Yeah.
I would feel like a traitor. I don't think I could do that. You know, yeah, I would feel like a traitor. It just would get under my skin, and I think at that point I'd...
When you run for the office, then of course the next step is the White House. Did you ever think of running the whole country?
No, that's way beyond any concept that I might have. I'm a very local person. You know, like I said, the whole family's been here. They, for many, many years, I just can't envision myself outside of East Hampton doing anything like that. That would, we politicians come up from local level and do get up to state level and could essentially get, but I'm not the person. That's not me. I've had some in the family. We actually had a state senator. We had a first lady.
Who?
Dat Gardiner married, was the daughter of the senator who was killed on a ship during an explosion. And she married the vice president. And she married him while he was in office. But when she married him, he was already the president. The president-elect, or he became president, went past being president-elect, was actually inaugurated, died within a month of office.
He did, that was
the president,
with an H.
What?
His name was with an H. Who died within a month. Harding?
Yes. No, not Harding. No, that was much later. That's the 1900s. This is the 1800s. Oh gosh, the name escapes me right this moment. Her picture hangs in the White House. I've seen it.
Well, I don't know about her, but him. Well, anyway,
yeah.
We're getting close to the end, and I have a special feature in our program, a trivia question. We're going to put a picture up there, and people are going to write in to identify those people, and I'm going to put their names in the fishbowl here. And next year, we're going to draw a name, and whoever it is going to be my guest.
Terrific.
And also, I was going to say that I'll invite you to our next reading at Guildhall. You have to take up acting. I think you would be very good at that. And this is the end, so I usually say goodbye to people. I wave to them. Bye. Don't forget to tune in that camera. Bye, bye, bye. And it was a pleasure having you. Time just flew. There's so many other things we could have talked about.
Yes.
But this was great.
Super.
I learned a lot about you. And
thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Great. I really didn't know if you could come because you didn't answer my phone call.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
I said, well, I don't live here, and I don't know if he's going to come. But as it's said,